Used a lot of different media conventions to create our piece, and in this video I'm going to break them down into little sections and talk about each convention that we challenged or developed. So just to recap the story of the opening, we follow a boy, Reese Marks, who has dreams about his brother Scott going missing on Stinchcombe Hill, and how the dreams at night start to consume him. The fact that Scott goes missing in the piece was taken from many different, movie conventions. It's very stereotypical of a, psychological horror/horror movie, and we realised it was stereotypical, and that's the reason we did it. One of those movies is called Changeling. It's a 2008 film about a grief-stricken mother who her child goes missing as well. And that's a big part of where we got our inspiration from, because you can see it in our film. The mother is kind of Reese, and the boy is kind of Scott. So that's the major inspiration for our film. That was the main convention that we used to build our story, which then obviously we think it makes sense, but there's no good, us thinking it makes sense if we don't get feedback. So I provided a questionnaire into our film, and this is some of the feedback that we received. Here I have selected the most helpful information. This person, who was in our target audience range, said that they found it a little confusing when it started, but when it got to the end they understood. This was helpful to me to know, because if the story wasn't understandable, then there's no movie, and so it was really helpful to understand that, and it's good to have some positive feedback. The second person that we asked, who was also in our target audience range, said that they think they understood it, but if they didn't, it doesn't matter, because it's only the opening of the movie, and to understand the storyline fully, you need to see the whole thing. This made sense to me. I'm glad it's positive. It shows that we picked the right convention to use and to adapt for our own project, but not all of the feedback was actually positive. There was some negative feedback as well, which I'm about to show. This person said that they actually found the story quite confusing, and this shows us that maybe we didn't convey the convention we were trying to as well as we could have done. But with every positive feedback comes negative feedback, and this means that we can improve on it. And if we were to do it again in the future, we'd know, where we were going wrong with the story, and perhaps make it more clearer. The next most important thing is the setting. Now, the convention we used for this was based on the Blair Witch project, but instead of having several people, we challenged it, and it was just one person in the wood alone, obviously being followed by somebody else. But the fact that it was just Scott walking along by himself, thinking he was being followed, kind of represents isolation, and to use that isolation tone, we used Berkeley Forest, which is quite isolated, quite cut off from everywhere else, so it gives the impression that the only people there are Scott and the person or the thing that is following him, which we thought was quite effective. To my surprise, every single person who answered the questionnaire said that the setting suited the piece, which obviously shows that we portrayed that convention and challenged it to, make it our own. We did that successfully, which is a really pleasing result. Here are some of the answers to back up that last statement. Generally, everybody said that it fits the genre really well. Having it in the woods, it's really surreal and unnatural. But one of the comments we did get was they were unsure why the school scene was in there, and that wasn't part of our convention. We didn't get any inspiration from the Blair Witch Project. That was literally just to make the story flow. So we could have maybe done that scene better. But apart from that, all the setting comments were good. The costumes are a big part of a movie opening, especially a horror one, because if you have the wrong costumes, it can ruin the entire piece. The convention, while it sounds strange, the convention we used for this was The Haunting in Connecticut, because that's about this family who come across paranormal activity, but they're just a normal family, they're just a normal, everyday people. And that's what we wanted to convey in our piece, that, Scott is just a normal boy that this strange thing happens to, and I feel that we portrayed that quite well. Here's some of the audience feedback on the costumes. Here are the statistics. 80% said yes, the costumes did fit, and 20% said no, the costumes did not fit. Now, unfortunately, not everybody said why, so we only have 3 comments on this. The people who did say yes, it did fit, said because it's clear that they're just normal people, doing average things, and it just happens to them by chance. So this shows that we did convey the convention really well. But the person who said no, or the people who said no, there's only one person that said why, and they just said just didn't. So there isn't really any clear feedback why, and so it's difficult to improve in the future. For the title sequence in our piece, there was no direct convention, because stereotypically titles in a horror, psychological horror film are part of the action. They kind of are embedded in the sequence. But I wanted to create a separate title sequence challenging that convention, so that the titles stand out from the actual action. So you have a story, and then you have the titles, and you go back to the story. I did this because I've never actually seen it been done in a psychological horror / horror film before, and I wanted to see how it would work. I wanted to see how the audience would react to having titles that aren't part of the action and aren't embedded into the film. They're a separate sequence. And here's some feedback on what the audience did think of this idea. So here are the statistics. 60% said yes, the title sequence worked, 40% didn't. So it's a very kind of mixed reaction to it, which is what I was expecting, because it's not really, I've never seen it really be done before. Here are some of the comments. They've said it was very action-packed, so it could have been incorporated as I expected. It could have been a bit more spooky, looked bland. It flowed with the mystery and fitted amazingly with the music. Really suited the opening. So it's really mixed. So it's hard to tell whether the challenge of convention was successful or not. Although I feel, given that there were more positive, it was 60% yes, 40% no, that it did work, and I'm very pleased with that. But in the future, maybe I would try out incorporating them into the action instead, and seeing if it would get a more positive reaction from the audience. Once again, I wanted to challenge the conventions of a normal horror film. Normally when they're having dreams, it's uneasy sound, and there's no real editing effects on the clips to make it look dreamy. But I wanted to challenge this because, again, it's never been done before, and I wanted to see how the audience would react. So let's see how they did react. These are the comments I got from people who actually answered the question. Generally, everyone thought it was really well put together. It flowed with the sound, and how they liked the strange effect I put on the clips in the woods to make it feel unnatural. Someone who said it was all right, which isn't, particularly good feedback. So generally, I think I challenged the convention of having not just uneasy sound, but uneasy clips as well. I think I challenged that quite well, and I'm pleased with the result. To conclude, the conventions used in our project was Chainling, The Haunting in Connecticut, and the Blair Witch Project. I feel overall, given that the audience feedback was positive, that we used and challenged most conventions really well. The weakest convention that we challenged was the title sequence, where people felt it could have been incorporated with the action a bit more. But overall, the feedback was positive, and so I feel that we used and challenged the conventions well.